Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. This is our anti-post-election show, and one thing that often gets presented in politics is family. You'll see politicians stumping on the campaign trail with their families, talking about family values and the issues that impact your family. But we never really talk about the toll that politics has on the family life of those involved in politics. Our featured guest is here to talk about it. An artist, filmmaker, professor, and activist prior to being elected as the Conservative Party of BC MLA for Chilliwack-Cultus Lake. She also serves as the House Leader for the BC Conservatives. Born and raised in the Stolo territory, a mother of three, she is líya Warbus. líya, hello.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So when it comes to politics, it's kind of a family affair for you, right? You grew up in politics and governance.
Yeah, absolutely. All throughout when I was growing up, I always heard about localized issues having to do with the Indigenous community as we were evolving from, a place of a passive receiving of services from the government in a very paternalistic way to more of the active, self-governing community that we are now.
And your dad in particular was very much involved in
Absolutely.
politics and governance, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. First elected when he was 24, and he was actually asked to run for leadership by the community and by our elders. I think that they saw that in him, and they sought to have him groomed as a leader, from their perspective, and at that age to lead our people into, again, that more active role with our own destiny, with our own governance, with our own finances, really having...
And you're speaking of the Stolo Nation.
Yeah. If anything, again, moving from the receiver to at least a partnership, and if not, the people that determine our own future.
So you have a very interesting perspective based on your lived experience, because you grew up with politics, so you saw it as a child in that sense, and the toll that it takes on family life. But now you yourself, mother of three, you're very much in politics, you're in elected office, so now you're on the other side. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that many jobs have a very taxing toll on the family and on parenthood. Mm-hmm. But from your perspective, is there something unique about politics and governance that makes it extra challenging or unique when it comes to parenting?
Mm-hmm. I would say so in terms of the hours. You're at the service of people, right? And community never sleeps. Yeah. Politics never sleeps. And especially if you're going to be put into a leadership position, it's that much more pressure. And I would say even the hours alone that we would spend, if I had a 9 to 5, even as a teacher, I'm getting to carve out the time outside of that for family. But as a politician, I do feel like I'm always on. And I spent a lot of time in Victoria. That was one of the deciding factors when I first spoke with my husband about this. I said, look, I understand I'm going to have to spend a great deal, not just away from all of you and being busy and campaign period aside, actually living in Victoria and having to do a lot of the job from there. That was one of the things that we talked about. And on paper, it's one thing. When you're living it, it's quite another.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you think there are different pressures based on gender, based on whether you're a man or a woman?
I really want to say there isn't. I'd love to live in a world where we can just say, hey, it makes no difference if you're a man or a woman. But I'm going to be very honest and frank. Mother's connection to their child in organizing, in comfort, in nurturing, in oversight, in even just communication, it has its own tone. It has its own unique vibration, like me with my children. If they're having a hard time, if they're sick, if they're behind in school, if they're experiencing conflict or hardship, or, having those moments that all kids have.
Yeah.
My relationship compared to their relationship with their dad is two different things. And so that disconnect is very hard on children, I feel like, when it's the mother. And that does not deplete from my husband's position in our family or the role that he plays in their life. There's a ton of balance to be struck within our household. Do I want to wake the kids up? No, because they're not going to listen to me. Right? So
sure.
Go ahead, go be the heavy hand, right? But there's always time and place. And I know for a fact when I come back and I add that balance back into the household, everybody's feeling elevated and a little bit more on balance with one another. When I'm not there, I know that they feel that.
Now, you're talking about these, vibrations that kind of affect the relationship that you have with your kids. Your start to elected office was pretty dramatic. I mean, you were thrown right into the deep end, not only as House Leader, but with drama internally in your caucus that was well documented. Obviously, a lot going on in the world as well. How much of that then affects your parenting? Are you able to kind of section them off?
No.
Okay.
No, and I had to get honest with myself very early on. And so like many people, I'm very active in my own self-reflection and healing journey, right? I've been through a lot of trauma and I know that about myself. And I know that I can't handle that all on my own and carry that. I've learned that as well. And so I'm pretty active in counseling. And what I love about counseling is it's just her and I, we get to kind of shut everything out and we get to talk about these things.
Yeah.
One of the things that, I feel comfortable sharing is talking about the, really the realization of, oh, I'm going home and I'm very stressed about a work issue and I'm slamming cupboards. I'm upset about something on the floor. I'm upset about something being out of place. So this wasn't
very
paid
normal.
on time.
Yeah,
right? You do notice how it bleeds and how it leaks through. With politics, it can be very extreme. If you're dealing with an issue that needs to be dealt with in a timely manner, and this is actually bleeding into family life, like I'm shutting the door and saying I have to take this phone call.
And some of it's being broadcast to the public, right, as well.
They're reading it. They're asking me about it. They're feeling the squeeze too, or maybe the projection is onto them as well. I've been very clear with my kids, I feel, and my husband in saying, look, this has nothing to do with you personally. My professional life is over here. I'm your mom. And those two things, we need to have a separation. But at home, I really had to start to catch early on and become conscious of saying it out loud. That was my trick that I used for myself. Look, I'm stressed about work right now. And my behavior, I'm going to have to check myself because it's starting to affect you. And that's absolutely what I do not want. I don't want to bring that energy into the house. I want there to be a clear separation. Is it easy? No. But what I found is being able to say it was what actually made us as a unit being able to handle it better.
Interesting. Now we have about a minute left, and I just want to ask you really quickly about the environment of the BC legislature. On this show, we have covered how the BC legislature has increasingly accommodated new mothers, but how about just mothers or parents in general? Do you find that the BC legislature is able to accommodate parents in a way so they can be good at their jobs, but then also be there at home as needed?
I mean, I wouldn't say that we're all the way there. I would definitely say children that are in their early stages of life, absolutely. But do they have, a person like they would on a film set who's there to homeschool your kids if they want to come for a week? No. So my children are at the school age and above, right? And so I really don't have that option of bringing them there. But if I needed to, I would say they would absolutely support me.
Okay, that's interesting. Perhaps something to work on in your role as House Leader. Yeah.
Might bring it to the committee.
So we just concluded a federal election. There are obviously going to be new MPs heading to Ottawa, different level of government. But for someone who just got elected, what would your advice be to these newly elected officials?
Take it one day at a time.
Okay.
One email at a time.
Don't try to change the world all at once.
One issue at a time. I sat down with a very seasoned leader within the first few weeks when I was elected. And one of the pieces of advice that I pulled away from that meeting, I still reflect on today, is you're part of a larger system. Your voice is there to amplify the voices of people who are not. And you're going to affect as much as you can for the time that you're there. And that's all that you'll be able to accomplish. And you're going to kick the can down the road a little further than it was and hopefully do some positive things. Don't take that lightly, but also don't wear the entire world on your shoulders. And it really helped me pull the focus that I had on absolutely every issue in British Columbia into where I was from my purview and what my role was. Like, one, I represent the people that elected me. So I have an area to worry about. What are issues top of mind there? Two, I was given and tasked with the House Leader position. What does that involve day to day? And how do I do my best at that job only? And it really allowed me to not have that wide, like we would say in indigenous culture, that wide net, right, to catch absolutely everything. Like that net's going to get weighed down very, very quickly. And what good are you if you're weighed down at the bottom of the river? You're not catching any fish that way, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I want to be available for the roles that I said I would apply myself to. And that is being the MLA for Chilliwack Cultus Lake, doing the best I can per issue, per stakeholder, per constituent. And when I'm in the legislature, doing the best I can from my desk as House Leader. It's focus, right? So don't try to do everything. They say drinking out of a fire hose for a reason. And that's because you got everything like flying at you all at once.
Right.
You know what? You're going to do the best that you can do. Show up, do your best, go home, get a good 8 hours and come back.
Now, everything flying at you at once, that certainly seemed to happen to you. Is there any piece of advice you wish someone had told you before you started your position?
I would say there wasn't, because I was lucky.
Okay.
Only because I was lucky to have like a lot of good women who are in leadership around me and a lot of seasoned
Shout them out.
politicians and MLAs.
Who are you talking about?
Okay, so one was my predecessor. You know, people think, oh, they're from a different party and you don't have relation.
Kelly Patton, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't help each other. No. You know, Kelly said, have that change of clothes in your car, have those steel-toed boots, be ready for anything.
Love it.
Things that just woman to woman, you go, oh, thank you, right? You wouldn't think of that. You don't know to have a full change of clothes in your car ready to go at any time, or, you know, tips about keeping notes and how to keep that organized, or I don't know, just things that they give you because, look, I've been there, I've done it, I've lived it. And these are things that are going to help you be more on your toes. That was one piece that I thought was just really practical.
That's amazing.
Right?
Líya, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Folks, thank you so much for watching, and thank you, of course, to MLA Warbus and Victoria Young for tonight's show. If you have any thoughts about parenting, school lunches, or anything you need to get off your chest, please shoot me an email, mo@thisisvancolour.com. Also, whether it's FOMO, social comparison, or the need for validation, social media is destroying our sense of self-worth. It's poison, so get rid of it. Even if it means you don't get to follow me at VANCOLOUR, I promise I will not take it personally. We'll see you next time, and until then, be colorful. Peace.